What's up, Marvel fans of a bygone era? Troy to the max extreme here.
And Golden Age, Ghost Hunter Dave.
And we are, of course, Imperius Rex. Today we are going over 1994's Marvel Comics Marvels, written by Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross at art duties.
Oh, Troy, is this our first taste of Alex Ross on Imperius Rex?
It is. And I've wanted to talk about him for a while.
Oh, my.
And you've been cock-blocking me this whole time.
I haven't. I have not been cock-blocking you.
But yeah, I've been looking forward to doing an Alex Ross thing for a while, as he has been an inspiration for me in the comics industry also as an artist.
And as a person.
And as a person.
Wife, as a husband, and as a father.
Since I've been in probably junior high.
All right. So this is near and dear to your heart.
It is.
Well, I'm glad we waited until we're almost completely through a 12-pack before we tackled it. But yeah, this is something that we should have touched on earlier, but it seems like the perfect time because I believe there is an anniversary coming up right now. Or actually, maybe it just passed.
It's just, the 25th anniversary just passed, probably a couple months ago at this point. But, so now is the time to talk about it. It's more relevant than ever now,
That's right.
Dave.
It's as relevant as we're ever going to get to this property. We're always a little bit behind the mark. But that's life.
That's life. That's all that people say.
That's right. And this is very much a look in the life, a day in the life, of the average Joe in a world of Marvels.
Very well said, Dave.
Thank you.
Well,
I'm done. I'm
to bring it back together. That's true. It features the everyman character Phil Sheldon, a photographer, going from his young career as a freelance photographer up until a child of two, a loving husband, and just caring father, just a hard old working blue collar guy, putting his life there on the line because he's out there chronicling the lives of these Marvel characters.
That's right. And at the same time wondering, like, what am I doing with my life? Photographing others.
I thought you were talking about yourself.
I read this and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Sitting here in this Spider-Man onesie, reading about these four-color characters.
Right.
No, of course I'm talking about Phil Sheldon himself, wondering, what am I bringing to the table? Just chronicling these Marvels.
Yes.
What am I doing as a person? Is this worth it?
Right.
Is this worth my time?
Right. That's true. That's true. Correct.
And actually is what I feel like when I sit down and edit these videos.
Like,
so
what are we doing?
it comes full circle.
Originally, this was planned to be an anthology series when it was first thought out.
Really?
Yeah, so the zero issue in this of the original Human Torch.
Yes.
The first, I don't know.
8 pages.
8 pages of this. That's what this was originally conceived as. And this was one of, like, the test pieces for that. But Alex Ross had, like, a list of characters that he wanted to deal with if he was going to do this anthology book. And Marvel editorial at the time was like, well, I don't know, even with the talent that you have, if an unknown artist would be able to sell, like, an anthology series, because they don't really do well.
Was Alex Ross an unknown at this point?
Before this, he's only done, like, indie work, doing, like, a Terminator series and, like, little titles here and there.
What?
That's
really?
It. But he was 19 when he did this.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Wow, we're all learning today.
He was super young when he started doing this.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and so Kurt Busiek picked him up at the time because he was doing regular comic work on indie titles in, like, the Midwest Chicagoland area. And so he got a hold of him. He kind of co-plotted this thing together, and actually Tom DeFalco at Marvel was like, well, the anthology series probably won't work, but what if you, like, do this series going through, like, huge Marvel, like, tentpole events through time, and you have, like, kind of a main plot going throughout. I think that'll do much better, and that's what they ended up doing.
Yeah.
And so they went back to the drawing board, they redid it, they introduced this everyman character, which, if you look at an Alex Ross work, has a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Like in Kingdom Come, he also does that. I really like that because with his realistic art, it really draws it home to the grand scope of everything when you look at it.
Yeah.
From an everyman point of view. It perfectly encapsulated with the cover of Marvel's with Giant Man stepping over a crowd.
I love that.
Amazing image, right?
Yep. I feel like the only other book that achieved that level of, like, cinematic scope was Ultimates. Where Brian Hitch shows, like, some of these same viewpoints where it's like, oh my lord.
Yep.
What a spectacle on display here.
Yeah.
So this is the start of the collaboration between Busiek and Ross, which goes on to Astro City, where Ross has done, like, every cover for that series.
Yes.
It all sprung from this.
Started right here.
I did not know that at all. I had no idea that Ross was not a name before Marvel's.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? And to just jump in and he's like doing this.
To come out of the gate with this.
Yeah.
Like one of the most revered stories of comics.
Right. I know. And I don't think... I'm just going to put it out right there now. I don't think his work has ever been better than this.
Yeah.
Like, granted, he is amazing. But I really think he took the time to make this perfect. Whereas now... Afterwards, yes, it's great. Even in his work now, I kind of see where he's like just
resting on his laurels.
A little bit.
Yeah. That's
as much
everybody.
as you can say.
Yeah, I think that's every artist.
Yeah. And now all he has to do...
He was 19 at that time? Like, what else is he doing?
Right?
You know?
Yeah, for sure. What's also fun in this book, too, is that it starts at the beginning of Marvel Comics on a real-life timeline.
Yeah.
So this starts back in 1939 at the birth of the original Human Torch, which is in the original Marvel Comics, then published by Timely Comics in 1939, and then jumps all the way in real time to 1973 when Gwen Stacy meets her death at falling off the bridge.
Yeah.
And it all happens in real time, and Phil Sheldon ages in all that time as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is like my grand design of what I would love to see in a comic. Like, a universe where time actually moves forward. And, like, if heroes continue on, it's through legacy. But I really, really enjoy, like, taking into account the politics and the societal norms and everything of that time period and just, like, playing them out through the comic itself.
Well, speaking of grand design, like, in the back of the trade, it gives reference to every single, little nod to the comics in the back matter. It'll tell you what issue it came from.
Oh, in Marvel's.
In Marvel's.
Yes. Yeah. Which Grand Design takes
does.
and runs with.
And what I like more in this that I wish Grand Design did, well, I don't know, they're two different things, but like in this, it does kind of the same thing where it gives a history of the Marvel Universe, but it has a narrative woven through it, whereas Grand Design does not.
Yeah, annotations.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite books of all time. I've probably read Marvel's through 5 times. Like, honestly, I didn't even read through it again because I know it so well. I just flipped through it to get some fun little things in it. So, the first issue of this starts with a young Phil Sheldon and his friend in tow, J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh, yeah.
Going to the original Human Torch's, presentation by whatever the guy's name is, Thaddeus T. Horton or whatever it is.
His debutante ball.
Yeah. And when he bursts aflame, the crowd is aghast. You know, they've never seen anything like this before. And when he breaks loose...
Was he supposed to burst aflame?
When he meets... he first touches oxygen, his skin just bursts aflame. Yeah.
But was that intentional?
I don't know. Because he is under that glass jar, right? So I can only assume he's got that weird European voice. Now let me take off this jar and you'll see that his skin burst aflame. So from this point on, Namor the Submariner also is introduced, roughly around the same time. And the entire world at large is still like, these Marvels are a menace because Namor is out there to just fuck shit up. He's an anti-hero at this point, and everyone's scared of this man on fire until he comes to their aid when Namor's attacking New York, and the original Human Torch takes it to him, and they're like, oh, this guy's not so bad. And when Captain America is introduced on the scene and fights against the Nazi forces, and Human Torch joins up with him, with Namor, and all the invaders are just taking it to the Nazis, everyone is now enamored with these Marvels.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil Sheldon, from there on out, makes it his goal in life to document these characters to show like how great of a...
Fucking Neymar. Loves to fuck shit up.
He is so hot and cold, like, and it is so...
I never quite get a good read on Neymar.
I know. I think now he's cemented as, like, he's, like, this anti-hero, but back then, he's, like, great for a minute, and he's fighting Nazis, and then the next minute,
Pure
he's
evil.
flooding New York.
I don't know how they haven't gassed this son of a bitch yet.
I don't know either. But a fun little detail I really like in this is that Namor is debuted, like, totally nude. Like, he's so far removed from surface life.
Yeah.
He doesn't wear any clothes or anything like that. It's a fun, just little detail that they've thrown in
I
here.
don't think I caught that either.
Well, he's always, like, in the weird pose
shadows.
where he's covering his junk up with a leg or whatever. So the entire first issue is, like, from 1939, like, through World War II.
Okay.
And Phil Sheldon is, like, doesn't know where he is with his life. He calls off his engagement with Doris. But then when the Marvels are, like, a good thing for the world, he's like, I guess I can marry you now. Because these guys are doing a good job.
He's kind of a shit.
I know. He ends up marrying her. And then the second issue jumps all the way up into the 60s. Where now he's like a father of two. Before we jump on to issue 2, but there's fun little Easter eggs that Alex Ross puts in issue 1. There's like a sighting of a vigilante, but it's definitely just the Golden Age Superman jumping between buildings.
No way.
It's a man in a blue leotard with like the old like laced up boots and a big billowy cape. It's definitely Superman.
Are you sure it wasn't an Angel?
I am sure it is Superman.
Not Winged Angel, but there was a character Angel.
I'm aware. It's,
all right.
With Ross's affinity with Superman, it's definitely Superman.
Okay.
There's also Joe Simon's original Captain America drawing in a newspaper of like an artist rendering of a Superman, of him just like that with like floppy pirate boots.
Yeah.
And then there's also an interview going on with people on the street, and one of them is just Popeye. It's a sailor squinting, and he's got a pipe out of his mouth and everything, and I thought it was just fun.
It feels like this book hits you on all levels.
It does. Yeah, it does. This book came out in 1994, and in that time, Image Comics and the whole revolution is huge, right? So they're into, like, big guns, big muscles, big boobs, extremism, right? Yep. And this, I think, is a reaction to that, where they're showing the history of Marvel Comics and why people fell in love with them in the first place as a good, wholesome, nostalgic view of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like we kind of go back into that as times go on, too. Like, right now we're doing something very similar with Mark Waid's History of the Marvel Universe, which is very much this, but from a much grander scale.
Right.
But not quite on the personal level that Marvel's does.
Right.
It's actually more attuned to, like, the grand design from Ed Piskor.
Yes.
But every couple of years, it seems like there is this just kind of like this need to go back and like, so what were all those, like, catch me up to speed. What were those good old days?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I feel like it's never more wholesome than the feeling like Phil has for these people. Like, they're good, wholesome people trying to do good.
Yeah.
And you really see it. I mean, it weans and waves through the title, but...
Yeah, there was one thing that struck me where it's almost like this on-again, off-again relationship with the Marvels that the world has, and Phil even has at some point, where it's like sometimes they hate them, sometimes they love them.
Right.
But for the most part, he does carry a torch for them.
Yes.
Even despite, like, society's views of them as a whole.
Right. And we don't need to go through every issue of Marvels, because I think you should go ahead and read it. It's only 4 issues long.
They're long issues,
but,
too.
Yeah, but
they're almost like a trade of each issue.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good time. But, like, when we jump into, like, issue 2, it's got fun things going on, like the Reed and Sue wedding.
Yeah.
So that's there, and you get to see like a big celebrity smattering of who's in the crowd.
Yeah.
It's fun to also see Alicia Masters has like an art exhibit there.
Yep.
And you get to see like in the background, like Matt Murdock is there, not in costume. There's like the X-Men are there incognito because they're not in costume.
Well, he does portray the X-Men as the
Mutant
feared
menace,
and
yeah.
the menacing mutants.
Yes.
Where they appear and they like I think Cyclops blasts an exit and everyone just like, oh my god, what do we make of these
Right.
freaks, you know? And I love that iteration of the X-Men.
Yes.
Where it's just like society fears them and they're so different, they're ostracized.
Right.
And then I love how it progresses on too, where it like gets into the 80s and they almost become like this pop, like glam rock type of thing where like everybody is infatuated with them and they're just like out there living their best life and like dressing up to the nines. I'm like, yeah, that's such a cool way that like this all played out, and it's great to be able to like step back and tell a whole story encapsulating that entire timeline.
Right.
Where it's like they went from freaks to like celebrities to like this cool like pop culture phenomenon.
Right. And it wasn't until this book either that I really kind of got why the mutants are ostracized. I mean, they don't really do like an amazing job of explaining it in Marvels.
Mm-hmm.
Just that the populace like is scared that they're going to be obsolete when the mutants take over because they're the next step in human evolution.
Yeah.
So they consider them as freaks and monsters. But it's kind of cool that even though like Phil Sheldon is kind of behind all of these Marvels, he gets even caught up in mob mentality at one point. He hurls a brick at Iceman and nails him in the head. And then later on, he's like, why did I even do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I just got caught up in this anger that the populace has for these X-Men. And I love that even at one point in this book, too, that Cyclops, after being berated by this group of people, like just says, they're not worth it. Don't even worry about it. And that sticks with Phil. Like, we're not worth it. What does that even mean? The X-Men stuff in this is some of my favorite. And there's panels in this book that are amazing.
And you're not an X-Men fan.
No, but I love the other side of it where people are afraid of him.
Yeah. So are you a fan of like this iteration of X-Men? Is that your like X-Men that you would like to see played out more?
I think so, but it's what I like about it is that it is the real person's perspective on superheroes, and it's not positive.
Yeah.
Even though you know from the other side they're for everyone's well-being.
Yeah.
And I love to that's what I think is interesting about it.
Any more highlights in this as it goes on? I believe there's a Galactus attack, right?
Yep. Issue 3 deals with the first showing of Galactus and the Fantastic Four beating him. Mm-hmm. And then the 4th issue goes into a lot of the Stacy stuff with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And how Phil Sheldon is working with the Bugle at this point and hates Peter Parker.
I love that.
Because he thinks Peter Parker is just
a shiftless layabout.
Just a fucking shell of a person, like just a sellout, like giving pictures to J. Jonah Jameson to make a buck, unknowingly knowing that he's like not Spider-Man. You know what I mean? So I think that's great. So the 4th issue deals a lot with the Stacy stuff, and Phil actually makes like a short little companionship with Gwen Stacy because in his eyes he feels like this is what the Marvels are fighting for, like this pure innocent woman.
Yeah.
Here, like nothing should ever go wrong for her because she's just.
It's almost like an American Beauty scenario
It kind of is.
It's almost this creepy infatuation, but it never goes quite that far.
No, it never does.
No.
But then, because she is like the pinnacle of like pure innocence, and to see her die is just like it makes him just a broken man.
Yeah. What good are all these heroes if they can't save one person?
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny that they end the book here because that moment in time is also like a famous point in time that it's like the death of the Silver Age. And then it goes into the Bronze Age from after that. So it's cool that they encapsulate the Gold and Silver Ages in this 4-issue span of Marvels.
Talk about truncating, timeline there.
Yeah. So needless to say, it's one of my favorite books.
Yeah, I
ever.
can tell.
Yeah.
So I gave you the follow-up, Marvel's Eye of the Camera, which Busiek also penned.
Yeah. So a sequel was kind of in the works ever since Marvel's was done.
Yeah.
And they were hitting up Busiek and Ross to do so. And they had a few things here and there ready to go. But then Ross eventually dropped out because he's just not a fan of the characters from, like, pretty much
that
the
point
death
on.
of the Silver Age. Like, he dropped out because he didn't want to do a Punisher or a Wolverine story. He's, like, just not a fan of those characters.
Interesting.
He doesn't like an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Like, at all.
And that's what this encompasses. I mean, in it, not like promoting them, but just saying like, but then this happened to the comic industry.
Right. And
Phil is almost like the Alex Ross stand-in there, where he's like,
almost.
what do I make of these guys?
Yeah.
Like, are these heroes?
Yeah.
Like,
and
they're killing people.
And it's not even that the book deals with so much anti-heroes as much as like
it's grimmer.
It gets into a darker period after like the Silver Age ends in this Bronze Era, where you dive into like the darker period of the late 70s and 80s, where you have like stuff like the Dark Knight Returns are out and all that, and everybody's like grim and gritty, and they're siding with villains that you thought they would never do, and Phil at this point, like, he has his book come out and it's success. His editor wants him to do a follow-up to it, kind of like they want to do a follow-up to Marvel's in real life, and he's apprehensive of doing it because they want to do it about villains, and he doesn't want to do that. If he's going to do anything, he's going to do another book to show how great they are, but then at the same time, he's seeing like how not two-sided or two-faced the heroes are. It's just like he's grown, I don't know, a little distant from them.
Yeah.
But still, he doesn't want to just badmouth.
There's all these new heroes springing up that, like, well, these aren't my heroes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
These are the new generation, and that's not how we did things.
Right.
And at the same time, he's battling terminal cancer.
Yeah, he's got lung cancer at the same time.
So, yeah, it's a downbeat book because the whole thing pretty much leads up to his, spoiler, death. Where he dies and his family kind of takes it upon themselves to finish his book, his young daughters. And we also get a reappearance of the young mutant girl, Maggie, that him and his family harbor during that Sentinel attack in the first. So I struggle with the fucking book in the spinner rack. So there was this kind of nice moment where they got to meet again right before Phil dies.
Yeah.
But I remember overall reading this. I read this issue to issue when it came out, and it kind of put me in a dark place where I'm like, man, this is a bummer.
Yeah.
You know, the first one is so inspiring. Yeah. And even the downs had the ups to combat it. But this one had a lot of downs. It went deep down.
Right.
And then by the end it got a little higher, but it never reached like this peak of hope and
you're right.
Like, oh man, wow, what a wonderful world that these superheroes live in. This one was a lot more grim. Yeah.
It's funny that you kind of say that too, because at the end of Marvel's, it's not like his attitude in Eye of the Camera is much different, because it takes place like almost immediately after Marvel's. Yeah. But at the end of the original series, he's kind of fed up with the Marvels a little bit because he's just seeing how they could be fallible. Yeah. And so he takes a picture of somebody innocent, and it's just a paper boy. Needless to say, like, that paperboy is Danny Ketch, who becomes Ghost Rider.
Oh, is it? Oh my god, I don't know if I caught that.
A hell spawn in his future life. So that's kind of funny that it, like, leads into, like, what he thought was innocent is going to be something totally demonic coming in his future.
That's funny.
Yeah. And so in this, like, it's kind of meta to where, like, what Busiek and everything is writing about. Like, he doesn't want to do a sequel. If he wants to do anything, it's going to be something brighter, but that's not what's in the world right now.
Right.
I did really like when Maggie showed up, and even Maggie is a throwback to an old Wally Wood little strip of that same mutant girl being chased and, like, whipped.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know if it's the same character or it's just a homage, but it's the same. And it's actually in the back matter of Marvels.
Oh.
And that's like a fun little thing too. But
love it.
I loved her coming back. And the brightest part of the book, needless to say, like, it's on Phil's deathbed. But the brightest part, I think, is when she does come back and said, like, no, I am fine. I found like a new life in New Guinea where people accepted me.
And I owe it to you for helping me that one night.
And I heard you were dying, so I came to see you before you passed so I could have, like, closure.
Yeah.
And when the family comes in and they're all embracing, and he sees it with his one good eye, and he could just pass away knowing that, like, he helped something.
Yeah.
I thought that was the brightest part, even though it is bittersweet.
Yep. It is. It's a dark ending, but it is, like, between those two books, it is, like, a good, full story.
Yeah.
Like, I would recommend, absolutely, everyone should read Marvels.
Yeah.
And if you want more, give the follow-up, Eye of the Camera, a shot, because it does conclude the story.
Yeah.
And that's it for Phil Sheldon. Like, he is one and done, or two and done in this case.
There is an epilogue.
Yes. But, for the most part,
Yes,
he's encapsulated in this. But yes, there is an epilogue which reteamed Busiek and Ross.
Yep.
And they did just this little kind of like side quill.
Yes.
Where they, it's like Christmas Eve in Times Square.
Right.
And
Rockefeller Center.
Yeah, Phil and his daughters see an encounter between the X-Men and the Sentinels.
Right.
And it's just like a fun little day in the life of type of adventure.
Right. It's great. And it's only like 16 pages, 18 pages.
Yeah, it's super
Like
short. I'm sure whatever the next collection of Marvels will be, that'll be included in, I imagine. And then right before we wind down, there was also a series of anthologies that spun out of the title between the original and Eye of the Camera.
Yeah.
And maybe this was something that Kurt Busiek was picturing more when he pitched the idea.
But maybe, I'm not sure.
This is just a different series of stories chronicling the everyday person's encounter with superheroes in the Marvel Universe.
Right.
And it's maybe like 5 or 6 different short stories, a couple issues each.
Right.
All penned and illustrated by different creators.
Yeah.
But, it's okay.
Yeah,
Did you flip through this?
I did, and I read the Warren Ellis Ruins.
Yes.
In there.
Ruins came much later.
Yeah.
The other ones were more tie-ins to, like, the Marvel Universe, and they were okay, you know? But then Warren Ellis jumped on and did Ruins, which was basically the antithesis of Marvels, which was the darkest take you could imagine on the beloved property.
It was so dark, I hated it.
Did you?
I fucking hated it. Like, I get it. Like, it tells you right at the beginning, for every, like, embrace, there's a punch to the face.
Yes.
Like, it's exactly the opposite of Marvel. So I didn't realize this was coming, but I should have expected it, right?
Yeah.
It's from Warren Ellis, so he can do some pretty dour shit. But, like, it is just a horrible fucking universe to live in.
Yes, it is. It's a Game of Thrones universe. Where every positive person meets a horrible end.
And, like, because I actually read this last night, the Ruins one, because I forgot that I didn't read that yet for the show. And I was disappointed that it was so bad. And I read it right before bed, and I was like, God damn it.
You dwell on that for a while.
But it is just this horrible universe that Phil lives in, and every single... Like, in the very beginning, like, a Quinjet of Avengers is just shot down by a missile.
Yeah.
And then soldiers are celebrating and picking up the deceased superheroes, like, accoutrement.
Yes.
Like, they're, like, cheering, holding up Captain America's shield.
Yeah.
Somehow one's holding Thor's hammer. I don't see how that happened. They meet with, Rick Jones, who is, like, kind of riddled with cancer and has to, like, pretty much drink morphine to, like, level out.
Yeah.
Tells a story about, like, how he kind of got that way, and it's the Hulk. When he got hit with the gamma bomb, just mute. Like, he said that he heard the tumors burst out of him.
Yeah.
And it's like, fucking A.
Wasn't there a circus performer, Ghost Rider, who doused his head in gasoline, lit it up, and then drove into the desert?
Yeah.
Aflame.
Yeah, it's just like, God.
Magneto, the mutant, who's being, like, ushered through police security to a plane, and all the magnetics of the area suck towards him and impale everyone around them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Peter Parker is carrying radiation, right? From being bit by the spider, and he ends up passing it on to Phil and killing him.
Right, and the radiation, like...
Fucking Parker.
the radiation, like, makes, like, a spider web pattern on him, and, like, either, like lesions or, like, whatever. But I'm just like, this fucking... I hate this horrible universe that you made me read. But it is what it's set out to be, the exact opposite of this, like, golden age, like, bright spotlight on the universe.
What a weird thing to ask for. You wonder if Warren Ellis said, like, I've got an idea for you, or if Marvel was like, would you do the polar opposite of our most inspiring tale?
Reading it, I was actually surprised Marvel printed it.
Yeah. It seemed like something that would be like an Image or a Wildstorm, like, kind of mocking Marvel.
Yeah,
like an authority type of story.
Exactly it.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, yes, because Ellis penned it.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was my biggest takeaway from, like, the Marvel spin-offs. I thought that was, like, worth noting.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to end it on a negative note, so... Send us off on a positive as we
let me touch on a little bit of Alex Ross things so I can say why he was such an inspiration to me.
Yeah.
So he comes close from our area, right?
Yeah.
And when I was in high school, there was an exhibit at his college he attended. And I went and saw the original Crisis on Infinite Earths painting he did of that huge long spread of like... You see, like, the Flash, like, running and aging, and it's the two Supermen holding up the Supergirls and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that original thing up on the wall, and it was his, and I saw all of his original art, and I was planning to go to that same college to learn, but it was so expensive to go there. And, like,
God damn it,
but
Alex
not only
Ross.
did I saw his stuff, I saw his mother's original art, because... His mother was an inspiration to him to learn because she worked in advertising in the swinging Mad Men era.
Yeah.
You know? But, like, he was a big inspiration on me starting from, like, 8th grade until now.
Yeah.
Like, and I wish I would have known that I was only, like, 8 years younger than him at the time. You know what I mean?
That is nuts. I can't believe his age when he did Marvels.
Yeah. He was either 19, 20, somewhere around that age.
Wow. Makes you really feel like you wasted your life.
Real piece of shit we are. I know, right? But yeah, he went to the Art Academy of Chicago. Yeah. And it was downtown Chicago. I went and visited. It's an amazing college if anybody is of age and wants to go there to learn. But like, yeah, he was a really big part of me wanting to get into comics and art in general.
Awesome.
So, yeah, just a little pick me up after that fucking shit ruins that we just talked about.
Well, I'm glad we get this insight into the backstory of Troy to the Max Extreme. I like this. This is interesting. You come from humble beginnings. You're very much the Clark Kent grown up on the farm.
Yep.
I don't know what I am yet. I feel like it's more sinister.
Definitely a more Warren Ellis.
Yeah, I think so. That's why we complement each other so well.
But that's gonna do it for, I think, our take on Marvels.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on the title? Did you read all this companion stuff? Let us know down below what you think of the work. What do you think of Alex Ross? Should we do more in the future?
Oh man,
I think we should.
I'm itching, salivating to show you Astro City.
I want to read it so bad, but I have not yet. It's been on my to-do list forever.
I think you're gonna fucking love it.
Oh, I can't wait.
That and Tom Strong, I think, are just gonna push all your buttons.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yep.
So, until next time, I have been Short of the Max Extreme.
And I, Ghost Hunter Dave.
And we have been Imperius Rex. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.